AEW Dynamite, January 1st, 2025 results. I never saw it coming. And it came in the way of Ricochet. We have got to talk about his heel turn, and we're also going to talk about Adam Copeland and his decision to shorten his name. Yeah, we're going to get to that in the main event, but as always, we're going to kick things off strong, and we have to talk about this Ricochet angle because Ricochet has been booked as a geek as of late on AEW programming. A few weeks ago, he got basically punked out by the Hert Syndicate, and then at World's End, after putting Okada over in the Continental Classic, Swerve Strickland came out and mocked the man before having Prince Nana hand out toilet paper so the fans could throw it on Ricochet, and him look like an absolute job guy, an absolute just geek. He had no emotion other than just anger, but he didn't do anything about it. He didn't say anything. He didn't go and attack Swerve Strickland, nothing. And then we fast forward to this week. Switchblade Jay White took on Swerve Strickland and Roderick Strong to earn the number one spot in NetSuite's Casino Gauntlet match, okay? And it looked like Swerve was on his way to victory. And then all of a sudden, we see Ricochet, who's in a suit, he's got glasses, and he hits Swerve Strickland in the head with a pair of golden scissors. You cannot make this up. And then we have Jay White put Roderick Strong into the ring. He hits his finisher, 1, 2, 3. He goes on his merry way. Now, after the match, Ricochet decides, might as well keep the beatdown going, and proceeds to beat the holy heck out of Swerve Strickland with the golden scissors, to the point where he literally sits up in a chair and stares at him. And right after he hit Swerve in the head with the golden scissors, he just stared at him like a serial killer. So, number one, Ricochet, he's off his rocker. Number two, he's officially a heel. And number three, we can stop talking about the horrendous booking of AEW and Ricochet. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, they had to drive him to this point. They had to get him to the point where he was going to turn heel. I don't think we should have necessarily turned him into a psychopath, but hey, wherever we get there, right? So Ricochet is off to the races with a heel run. He is off to the races to being in a feud with Swerve Strickland, which should be fun. It should be interesting to see if they actually have Ricochet go over Swerve, or they just have go out there, and have Swerve beat him. Time will tell, right? AEW, they got their next pay-per-view in February, so I would assume that's when we're going to tee this up. It's going to be interesting to see how long Swerve Strickland is off of television. It's going to be interesting to see what type of promos that Ricochet cuts, because, that's kind of been his whole knock, whether it's pre-WWE, WWE, or AEW, his promos have never been strong, so hopefully he can prove us wrong, and he's going to be a top-tier heel. Now, let's get to the opener of this show, because it was actually an interesting show. You had Hangman Page. He went over Orange Cassidy. This was a solid match, back and forth, very competitive. Now, after the match, Page attacked him again, connecting with multiple dead eyes until the referee and Christopher Daniels ran out to break it up. Daniels got in Page's face and ate a right hand for his troubles. Daniels then pleaded that he was Page's friend, but he was booted in the face for his troubles before Page went to the back yelling at Danielson to stay out of his way. We had a backstage segment with Switchblade Jay White. He was talking about how 2025 didn't start out the way that he wanted, as he's not the world champion. However, he would have been champion, but Wheeler Yuta cost him his moment, and he promised to show Yuta how he truly feels and won't do it by words. He will do it through actions, and saying that he's going to win the Casino Battle Royale next week. We then have the Hert Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, go over the Acclaimed. Now, this is where things are interesting. So most people would see that on paper and go, oh yeah, Hert Syndicate's going to go over. Well, they did. Here's the interesting part. So you actually have Max Caster walk out on his tag team partner. Now, they've been building up to this for a while now, right? And what's interesting is MVP was at ringside, and he was egging Caster on. And in the end, it was Caster who just walked out on his tag team partner before the heels got the best of him and went on. And I think it's interesting that they're even going in the direction of teasing this tag team up. I don't see Bowens doing anything as a singles guy, and I don't think Caster is as good as he thinks he is just yet. I think he needs time to move a little bit more, but we'll see where things go from there. Okay. Julia Hart worked her first match since April of 2024 when she went over Jamie Hayter. She had to drop the TBS title to Willow Nightingale at Dynasty that month. She was out with an injury. I think they said it was a shoulder injury. I forget. Either way, she had surgery. She was out for a while. She returned in mid-December on a collision attacking Jamie Hayter, which is actually a great start for her. And I'm glad to see them put her in a position of noticeable recognition against a notable star in a notable program, and that was good. I thought both girls worked well here. I thought Hayter and Hart looked really good. They have natural chemistry, and I would be curious to see what they can do with more television time, more pay-per-view time, if you will. Now, the finish of this match was interesting because you had Hart, she goes out, she gets an arrow, it distracts the referee. The referee goes put up the arrow, and she sprays black mist in the eyes of Hayter, allowing her to capitalize and win the match. So, a strong start for Julia Hart coming back. It's good to see Jamie Hayter on television in a notable program. And we'll see. I mean, Hayter's a former women's champion. Hart is obviously a former TBS champion. We'll see where they go in that direction, but I thought they had a fine match. Okada did a backstage segment. They also announced that Kenny Omega was going to be returning next week on Dynamite. Louise Monet came out with a New Year's celebration segment. She was plugging her match at Wrestle Dynasty this weekend, her New Japan Strong Women's Championship match against Mina Sakuraba. She cut a basic promo. She had a video package air of all of her highlights in 2024. She vowed to become the new belt collector by winning the Rev Pro Championship from Mina, and that was basically it. It was just a pretty clear-cut, pretty basic heel promo promoting a match. There was nothing great about it. There was nothing bad about it. It was just a solid segment. Jeff Jarrett time. He came out with an announcement, and this was long-winded, and Jeff can be long-winded, but he's such a great mind for the business. So he had a guitar set up in the ring. He came out to the ring and said there are so many things that he has to be thankful for in his career and wishes everyone a slappy new year. He said it's sad to start thinking about things coming to an end, but it made him think how things began. He talked about his grandmother starting to sell wrestling tickets back in the day, changing his life and changing families' life. He talked about high-risk, high-reward decisions that helped her get into the business. His father becoming a wrestler and buying a promotion in Tennessee, him dropping out of college and getting into the wrestling industry in 1986. It ultimately led to him starting his own promotion, aka TNA, in 2002, that had developed some of the most biggest names in the history of the business. He grabbed his boots and asked if the last outlaw should ride off to the sunset one more time. He said no. When you take biggest risk, you take the biggest reward. So he signed his very last wrestling contract with AEW. He said the last outlaw wants one more ride and he wants AEW gold, and then started talking about how he's going to take on the biggest risk of his career, entering the gauntlet match, the number one contender casino gauntlet match, as his New Year's revolution is to be a AEW World Heavyweight Champion. So obviously, I don't see Jeff winning the world title anytime soon, but they teased this segment up very well. They made you think that he was going to retire. Obviously, he didn't, but still very, very strong by Jeff. He's really, really good. He knows how to do everything in the business. He really, really does. He's a true mind, and people can crap on him all you want, but at the end of the day, he's a really, really good dude who has a really good heart and is an exceptional babyface, heel, promoter, marketer, you name it. He brings a lot to AEW, and they should be really happy to have him. Powerhouse Hobbs, who put over Takeshita at World's End in the International Championship match, he got a squash match, defeating John Cruz and Rob Killjoy in a handicap match. There was nothing there, but it was good to see that Will Hobbs got a notable win in terms of just an enhancement squash match. JF did a promo after World's End congratulating Adam Cole on his win, but he corrected himself and says that Cole lost. It took an army to beat him up after the match, and says, thankfully, mercifully, the chapter of the Better Than You Baby comes to a close, but now it's time for retribution. It's time to take back the Triple B, something taken from him without him actually losing it. It's been paraded around the briefcase, and questions John Moxley, what's a king to a god? No one is on the level of the devil, something Moxley should know very well, he said. MJF doesn't care if Moxley burns AEW to the ground because in 2025, the devil gets his due. Part 2, he's looking forward to MJF putting the Cole feud behind him and getting back in the main event picture and becoming a key player again in the new year. Yeah. Okay, now finally, main event time. It was the Death Riders, AEW World Champion John Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli taking on FTR and Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland is now going by Cope. Yeah, that's for real. They mentioned him as that on commentary, and on his name template, it's the Rated R Superstar Cope. I don't like this, but he's going with it. Anyways, the babyfaces went over. You had Jay White get involved, took out Wheeler Yuta. The babyfaces hit all their finishers, and to Claudio and won the match. I think it was Claudio. Could have been Yuta, but I digress. It wasn't John Moxley. So they're clearly building up a tag team match, maybe, between Claudio and Yuta and FTR, but more importantly, I would see the February pay-per-view event being Copeland versus John Moxley, just another guy for Copeland to work with and ultimately put over. I have no problem with that. I don't think Copeland should be the world champion. I hope they're not going that direction. I think it's pretty clear that Darby Allin should be AEW world champion right now, and that's a payoff to this whole Death Rider saga, but we'll see where they go from there. Let me know in the comments there below. What do you think about AEW Dynamite January 1st, 2025, and would you like to see more of this type of content?